go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 77 of Midnight Poppyland on the Story Tinker. And today we have Emily, Raluca, and Saucy Tuggles.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. We start off with, again, a little bit of a recap of the last episode where they have the adorable falling into bed together. And the last line that he said was, "You can treat me like that, and I'll show you how it works." And she's like, "No, not Uncle Ned's line." And that's where we continue. And Tora looks at her and I just could hear the voice that he's saying this in. He's like, "There's no Uncle Ned in here."
Like, I can't tell if he's being like sassy or if he's being seductive. I feel like it's like just on the line of like sexy sass. Like, he's definitely making fun of her, but at the same time, like, yeah, it's 100% deep entrancing voice.
Yeah.
And he's like leaning into her. Oh, whew. Oh my God. And the next panel, he's like, "Only your Uncle Tora." Oh my gosh.
The eyes in this chapter, like, literally, I don't, how did 2D eyes undress me? Is that possible?
Yeah, like I feel like I don't know if he ever tried to be sexy before, if he ever cared, but now he's finally taking that skill and turning it up.
Oh, he definitely tried to be sexy before in the club. Like, "You cocky little." It was the same push, the same idea.
Yep.
Behind.
He's turning up the charm.
Yeah, he's turning up the heat.
Oh, and he looks fabulous, and it works because Poppy is like butt dumping and blushing, looking up at him. Which, yeah,
well, I think the whole fandom was butt dumping at
yes.
that point.
He could probably say anything to her with that look and that voice, and she would end up like that. Like, he could just be like, "I need to put my socks in the laundry," and she'd be like, "Oh my God." That face says it all.
Yep. And she's like, "Tora, that's not funny. Were you really mad about that? I just didn't want jewelry slinging mud at you because of me and accusing you of stuff you didn't do. And he absolutely would have if I had said you were a friend." And he's laughing. He's like, "Just kidding, sweetheart. I'm not a petty little bitch."
Okay.
And, yeah.
Just awesome.
This episode is full of a lot of things, but my one main comment about this the thing that hit me about this episode is, you think about it, like, run it through in your mind. This episode is two people in one room. There's no change of setting. There's no action. There's no nothing. But Lily's camera work and her perspective is so skillful. You never realize that. You're in this, there's always action, there's always forward motion, there's always back and forth. You were never like, "Oh, I'm in a room with a little tiny cramped room with two people. I'm not in this vista of ponds and stars," and you're in a little kind of frumpy bedroom, but you never get that feeling. And it's the camera work, like just in these first 4 panels, side shot, then you get her POV, which hits you like a truck, and then you get his POV looking at her blushing,
which also hits like a truck.
Yep. And then it pulls back to the corner of the room, and now we're the observer again. But you're jumping in and out of these perspectives, and so you're never like, this episode isn't going anywhere physically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
If this is you in insomnia mode, like, I'm literally like, Saucy, that just like blew my mind. Yes, this felt like a little universe. Like, literally, I felt like they were in their own little universe, but not little. Like, you're right. Like, it was overwhelming, encompassing, intimate, and yet large scale. Like, it didn't feel like, it felt overwhelming. Like, literally, you went from close to far to all over, and it didn't feel disjointed. It just felt personal and real. And I didn't even think about why that was. So, wow.
Yeah, master storytelling.
Yeah, not only storytelling, but you've got the feeling that you are watching a movie and how the camera moves around the characters and back and forth, and then a view of the bedroom, and then a view of a close-up of what they're saying. And this helps also bring forward what are they saying? Because when we have this shot when Tora is laughing and he says, I'm not a pretty little witch. First of all, Lily addressed an issue that at the time the whole fandom was questioning. How can Poppy call Tora an uncle? And Lily just explained it here so, I don't know, effortlessly. Like, I didn't want Jury to come to you, to sling mud at you, to drag you down. So it's a way of I don't know, of explaining to the general audience some ideas that maybe have escaped at the moment when all of this happened.
And I had wondered why Uncle specifically.
Yeah.
It could have been friend. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if it was like a form of protection from her, because she just said like, I didn't want Jewelry slinging mud at you and accusations.
And she would have done it if I would have called your friend.
Yeah, and uncle is a term of respect, an older person whom you show respect to. So by saying Uncle Tora, it's like saying this older person who I have respect for. It's not just a random friend, someone on her level. It's someone that she thinks more highly of, and therefore he, like, you know, it's like saying like, hey, this guy is an important.
If this guy is a relative, then you Julie cannot touch me.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a relative, because like in Asian culture, uncle can be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uncle,
So,
you can say to an older person, but Tora is not that old, so she might be, let's say, a relative.
Yeah.
Just like Danny and Mirabel are her cousins.
Right.
Then, well,
Very family
it can be
terms.
confusing. Also, I noticed that Tora is laughing, and I don't know if you noticed in the last few episodes how often he laughs.
so often.
Yeah, like back after the dinner when they are on the pier, he laughs, and before that when they reach her house as well. So you can't see him laughing in the city so often.
Yeah, and especially since the beginning of the episode. Since the beginning of the story. You know, his puppy is just bringing joy into his life.
Oh.
You know.
So that combo with her, but then away from all those eyes on him.
And the pressure he always associates with the city and everything that it is for him.
Although, no, okay, this is just me being silly, but like you just said all those eyes not on him, except for all the million-eyed spiders that are hanging out in that place.
Frogs.
He has more eyes on him in this little room.
Spiders and bugs, who knows what else.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he continues, and he it seems like he's getting even closer. He's like, wasn't it your brightest idea, but I appreciate the thought. And she is the dumb thing because he is so close. And then we have his hand moving up under her shirt, which by the way is like at its longest, like top of her thigh. So his hand is already in intimate territory. And
Let's
if you're on
hope
Patreon,
so.
there was a comment that Lily left about exactly where the hand was. So go find it.
Yes. And so if it's like him brushing the top of or underside of her boob, then that was, she's not wearing pants, we established later in this episode. So if that shirt has ridden up all the way, like she's literally like, that's a very exposed amount of flesh that she's got going on there.
She was not wearing pants, but maybe she was wearing her
underwear. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh true. She could have been wearing safety pants still.
Oh, or just I think just underpants. But I was so happy to see them, at this level because, I mean, and I know people were discussing this, but I think it's about time. I think that this is the right time for them to go a little further.
But what I don't think we really realized that the club scene was 2 or 3 days prior this episode. Like the kiss on Arrest Street was yesterday.
Yeah, or 2 days ago. There was a day between the office and the alleyway. It was there was a kiss in the alley, then 1 day off, and then work, and then
the
she
club
left.
party was 3 days.
Yeah.
So
that is really close. True.
So it's mind blowing when you look at the bigger picture and
It's
see
moving fast.
in just 3 days they are moving fast.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So,
I guess for
yeah.
us, it's a lot of
For
growth.
us, it's excruciating. I know. For some,
Mindy, the woman who when she touched her husband was like, oh my God, he's kind of like, okay, enough time now.
But
Let's get it on.
I will say it went from there, like from never touching a guy before, it went really fast. And I was so surprised. I was like, me, like this like super religious conservative girl, like never touched a guy
You're
before.
Poppy.
Like, I was like surprised at how natural it felt. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what they like. Oh, it's human. It's like a very normal behavior. It felt very natural.
So I wanted to talk about that actually, which is coming up now, because we get the next panels of her realizing that his hand is touching her. They start to kiss, which is obviously swoon worthy. And then you see her body language. And a few friends and people were talking about the level of comfort that they're at. Now, it's not, Poppy is not uncomfortable. This is not like cringy, like I don't want him touching him, but she's like right on the cusp of, I think she is comfortable. She knows she's ready for the next step, but she's getting in her head a little bit. And we'll talk about that, I think, more as it gets on, but you can see like she's like, she's not like distressed.
She's not reaching to him.
Yeah, she's not like jumping him, but she's enjoying it. She's fully on board, but she's also kind of, she's got the body language is still a little bit tight. Like it's almost like parts of it are natural and then other parts of it are not. Like she's a little bit.
She's a bit apprehensive. Like for me, a natural response from her would have been that she would reach her hand up and put it around his neck. Mm-hmm. And instead she keeps her hand by her side. So I think she's a bit scared, but willing to go further with him.
Yeah, it's very natural. It's fast moving. She's just got out of a bad relationship. She has trust issues, which we'll go into. But so I had my friend once ask me when I knew that Alan was the right person for me. Alan is my husband. So I remember saying, like, I didn't think about it. Like, I just didn't have a moment where I was like uncomfortable. I didn't have a moment where I thought like, is this a red flag? I didn't have a moment where I thought like, oh, he said this, like, is this me overreacting or is this something I don't like? Like, I didn't have that. Every issue I had was generally me overthinking something, but it was never I didn't question it. It felt right. It was natural. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to worry. And I have a lot of friends that have gone through multiple relationships and they would say like, I'm not really sure if he's the right person, but like, he's not like, and they try and justify all these things, but they're like, I don't know if it's just me overthinking this or if this bothered me. And like, well, if it clicked, if something happened, you're like, is this me or is it him? It's probably him. Like, it's just not right. And that's my own personal, also, everyone has different relationships, but I think she has a very natural response to him, very automatically. And it's open, it's trustworthy, and all of the trust things that she's questioning are from previous relationships and previous trauma. And I think she's right now, she's in that position of trying to figure out of can I be open with him? Can I be vulnerable with him? Is he trustworthy? And they haven't had that combo yet in this chapter, but you see that in the body language.
Saucy, yeah.
I was just gonna say 2 things. In the previous episodes, we've seen how she's ready. She practically rolled on top of him on the dock, right? Mm-hmm. In this panel here, which we're talking about, was it always this rough and calloused, mm-hmm. which shows, she hasn't had very many man hands on her. Mm-hmm. But if you drew that panel with the armor, I mean, obviously you could draw it but Lily could draw it any which way. That's a choice there, but it emphasizes the kiss and his hand in that perspective. If you put his arm around her, you'd have to change that around.
So you think it's more compositional than emotional?
No, I just think it is emotional. You see that there, but because now she's in the moment, and that's different than, you know, wanting it and thinking about it is different from the rough and calloused hand actually on you. And then you're like, ooh, that's that moment, right?
Well, there are plenty of things that I will read and I'll be like, oh, like, yeah, I could totally get down with that. But if someone approached me with it, I'd be like, oh, hold on, wait 1 second. Like, in theory. Yeah.
But that would have changed the composition. And I don't know, I think I get the sense that Lily is really conscious about where she wants the eye to go. So here, the eye is in that diagonal on the hand, and it's pointing towards the lips, the mouths coming together. Actually, that her hand also is directing you into that point of lip contact.
You get like a counterclockwise swirl from his hand to boob to hand to kiss to badump. Like it kind of like
yeah, an arc.
In fact, it's like a cue. The slide of his hand is the slide of our eye. It literally starts there and we just kind of slide up the panel.
That's so perfect.
That's all you. just taking it and running with it. I love it.
I love your visual analysis.
I never I used to look at this stuff and I feel like recently I haven't. So I need Saucy's magic of color and light and panel.
Well, I just appreciate the ass close up in the next one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it too. I have to say, like, never ever did I ever think about it. I'm like, every single time I see it now, I'm just like that in my mind. And for the listeners, I am slapping Tora's butt in my mind.
Oh, is that what you're doing? I'm looking at your hand.
Mindy,
so cute. I don't know. Sorry, it's adorable. It's so cute.
It is. He's got to find it.
Yeah, I love his thunder thighs also. I love it. So nice.
They're meaty and delicious.
You notice one thing though? I mean, I guess it's a common theme because he had his dino shirt before, right? Now look at his shorts. What is he, Poppy? I mean, they have this child-like theme in there. I mean, usually not in his outerwear, but if he's going around Aries Street with little smiley faces on that tush, come on, man, that's awesome.
Maybe he only reserves it for when he knew he was going to be with Poppy. Like maybe he doesn't take the risk when he's out in the public.
Convinced he's really commando, so I think these are like special Poppy shorts.
I bet maybe Quincy bought them for him, knowing that he's like, you'll need this one day, buddy.
If Quincy had bought him that though, I bet they'd be assless, don't you think?
Okay, fine.
100%.
Okay, but so if you read more into it, he's extremely comfortable and open to her. But God's sake, the man is in his underwear in her room.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, she's also barely wearing anything.
She is barely wearing anything too, but he could have gotten spare pants from the car, right? But
yeah. Yep. I'm so happy to see them like this. So their sexy times are interrupted again. This is the phone rings. Poppy notices it and tells him, Tora, your phone is. He's like, it's Pinky, ignore it. But it's not Pinky, right? We see the thing, warning, highly unusual movement detected at balcony area. And she's like, no, wait, I don't mean to sound like a creepy stalker who notices everything about you.
But I am.
Like, well, which basically tells you, yes, she is a creepy stalker and notices everything about him.
She's observant. She is an
observant. Yes, she's observant.
And I think Tora's reaction kind of is like, oh, wow, she cares about me that much that she notices. That's what at least how I interpret his like surprise face.
I saw it as it clicking. So I find more often than not in an amorous situation, women just tend to be, not always, but women can tend to be slightly more observant than men. It's kind of a little tunnel vision when it's like sexy time is on. And when he said ignore it that time, it reminded me of on Regina's Peak when they were hugging and she was like, Tora, something is pushing into you, and he was like, ignore it. It seemed very the same thing. And he's like, okay, like we're getting in the middle of it. Like, let's just keep going. Like, forget about the rest of the world. Like, sexy time is happening now. And when I saw his eyes like that, that seemed to me, it was almost like a light bulb turned on. Like it was like she was like, hey, something's happening. And he was like, oh, like he like pulled out for 1 second and was like, oh my God, wait, she's right. Like I need to get my game face back on.
Yeah, it's true, because he does say that. He's like, oh, thanks, I just realized. So yeah, that makes more sense. And yeah, she's like, that doesn't sound like your usual vibration pattern. He sits up, he's like, yeah. And she's like, you're welcome. And he looks at the phone and he automatically turns away from her because he doesn't want her to see what, now he probably realizes, oh, this is the motion sensor. And he still wants to protect her from knowing what exactly is going on. And he sees it. Sorry, go on.
He's composed. Like if I have like a Ring camera on our back porch and front porch. So if like the Ring goes off, I'm like, oh, I have a package or something. And like, but if something unusual happens, so if I get like, the other day I had people like contractors walking around the property. I didn't realize they were coming out, and I had a Ring notification from my front door, and then like 2 seconds later, a Ring notification at my back door. And I was like, okay, there are 2 bodies on my property at this moment. Like, what the heck is happening? So I quickly opened it up, and like I was a little bit panicked. This happens to Tora, and he's just like, okay, let me look at it. He walks away, he gets his game face on, he checks his list, he sees where Pinky is, he thinks about you, he calls him, and then he makes a plan in his head in like 2 seconds. Like he's very composed, he's on it, he's in game mode right now. And he's just calm. This is his element. And I find it very impressive that he's able to analyze the situation and come to a decision really quick without having to just like panic. In this scenario, I think he panics a little bit when he's dealing with relationship stuff with Poppy, though. And then you see the episode kind of speeds up real quick here. Like it's just like alarm, ideas, contact these people, come to a plan. And then they get to the emotional part of it and the episode slows down again. So it's almost like that's where he's not comfortable. It's really fascinating, just the pacing of it. For what is the issue? This issue that should be a big deal is resolved. They come to an idea quickly, a plan. And the rest of it is like long term. Okay, we'll have to talk about this and slow down, and we'll come back to it. And so,
it's remarkable that he manages to put himself out, to have enough self-restraint to put himself out of sexy times and quickly get into work mode. And exactly like you said, he's comfortable, not necessarily comfortable, but he's used to this, and he's running scripts. Like, what do I do if I leave Pinky with her and go by myself, or if I take her with me, or if I leave her behind? So these are all just scripts that are happening in his head, and
this is his wheelhouse, right? I mean, so like he gets sent out to shoot some dudes. He has to evaluate the vectors. He has to evaluate where he's going to shoot from. He has to evaluate the wind, blah, blah, blah. And he just runs everything. So he is here evaluating risks. But that's a really good point of the acceleration and deceleration of the action. It's
I want your opinion, because that just hit me now. Like I have not, so normally I have so many notes on these chapters and I have nothing. So this is all me winging it. So I feel like I need everyone else to take my nonsense and make sense of it. So Peg, just as we're rereading, keep that in mind and look for things that I'm going to miss.
Don't worry,
musical.
No nonsense. No one here has any nonsense. I have very great opinions of you guys. So
it's just musical, and she's playing with lights and darks too, like the faces, like the close-ups, and then this, like his face, it comes right after her face close-up, her eyes wide, and then his crazy sexy eyes, and then the next panel is dark with the light. So I don't know, the light and dark also helps keep it, the values help keep it from that feeling of I'm in one box, you know?
Yeah, now that you've mentioned it, I'm seeing it so much more. You're right. It makes it feel larger than it is. It makes it feel very exciting and action filled.
Also, he's with his back to her the whole time. So this is another telltale, like a sort of protecting her until he makes his decision.
Yeah, shielding her, kind of.
Shielding her, yeah.
From what's going on his phone, which is an attack or an invasion of her house or something, right? Yeah. But I'm still kind of interested in, every time I see them two together, their looks have crisscrossed now. So she's in his clothes and he's in her shorts, basically, or puppy-esque shorts. And so it's like they're entwined. Like their clothing has them entwined in a way that they weren't connected before.
I'll get into each other.
I'll get into
yeah, so they influence each other. And I know that after being with my husband for some time, like we adopt each other's expressions and, you know, talk like each other, move a little, like, I don't know about moving, but definitely talk like each other. So that's what happens when we're with someone.
I think it's a visual symbol of the deep new connection or the deepening of their connection. That's how it hits me anyways.
So again, I have a note for this later in the episode, but in general, throughout the entire series, I have felt that their relationship, so like, you know, like there's like switches, like tops and bottoms, like sexual switches. I think they are a relationship switch. They go from who, and like, it just makes me so happy because like they go from who is in charge fluidly all the time. Like they just read each other's body languages, like words, actions, feelings, emotions. Like they see it and they go into, okay, I need to take charge here, whether it's deflecting with a joke when things get too sexual, or pushing a boundary when things are like, you know, pushing in and seeing maybe this is a good sexual moment for them, and bringing things back from a silly section to something more intense, or in a problematic situation where Tora is taking charge here and Poppy is letting him do his thing. But then when she sees him having a little bit of a freak out, she says like, are you okay? And then she kind of takes charge. And then again, we get into it more later, but they really play off each other so well. And they're equals. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses without actually knowing each other that well. And it's really impressive. They're intuitive.
Yeah. And I think that is a mark that they're, you know,
I like that they take turns in protecting each other as well. So when she was on Aristide or on his apartment, he tried to protect her in his way. Then now we are finding ourselves in her house, and she, like in her territory, let's say, and she tries to protect him first with jewelry, then with Ned and June. Like, I'm gonna deal with it. You stay here. I'm gonna take charge, and I'm gonna deal with this problem. And it's really interesting how the situations are reversed every time.
Which panel are we on?
So yes, let me run through the rest of like the planning part that you were saying, where he says, oh, who the hell set up that alarm? Some burglar, right? He's like you said, getting into the action mode, and behind him Poppy's like, Tora, and he gets up, he's like, where the hell's Pinky? He starts typing. He sees that 5 minutes ago Pinky said, effing Pinky is like, I got lost in the forest, sorry big bro, I'll be there in 12 minutes. Of course. And he'd start, you know, he's like, it's just the wheels are turning. He's like, well, it might be safer if I leave her here, go back on my own, but I promised her to be with her tonight. What if that shitbag comes over while I'm gone? So he's concerned about her and like her emotional well-being, not just her physical safety. And he's like, Ronzo's not picking up. He tries calling him, doesn't pick up. He's like, oh, I think he's coming in 10 minutes. You can stay with her. He's still calling. And then he turns back and looks at her, and Poppy's like really worried. She's like, everything okay? Want to stay by your side a little longer tonight.
Mindy hits fast forward.
Right.
That was impressive.
Yeah, trying to keep looking at the time.
Yeah.
Well, I had a question. Where the hell is Pinky Tap Tap? Is the rabbit in this representing his okay, never mind. I'm nervous to ask that question.
Wait, now I gotta know what it is. You can't do that to me.
Wait. Wait, is it like, sorry, Saucy. Is it like representing a certain part of his body? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay,
standing
fine.
in attention, those ears like glowing, like, damn it.
Okay, I love that theory. I didn't think of that at all.
It's like conscious or something, but okay.
Look at the positioning of him and the bunny.
Okay.
Okay.
The symbol of
just saying.
what he wants to get back to. And does Pinky not have GPS? What is going on here?
1 second. And I am in defense of all people who get lost. Not everyone is good at directions, okay? I can talk for the next hour about all the direction mistakes I have made. So I have full sympathy for Pinky. Let's not diss on him, please.
Pinky wandered into a Grimm's Brothers fairy tale. He's off with the bears and
I love
the
that.
wolves. Yeah.
Well, give some credit to the Moonbright Forest, please. They managed to make Goliath lost. So.
Right.
True enough. I just like that Pinky's always a screw up.
Always, but
it's like perfect. I love
endearing screw up. So I thought this section was really interesting, where he's weighing his options, where he said it might be safer if I leave her here and go back on my own, but I promised to be with her tonight. Also, he wants to be with her tonight. And then what if that shitbag comes when I'm gone? And that seems like that's when he makes his decision, because like right after that, they actually talk. And I find it interesting that he might consider a burglar or someone breaking into her apartment less of a threat than jewelry. Like if he takes her with her, or it could just be the fact that he feels he's more capable of protecting her against something that is literally dangerous versus leaving her alone with Pinky with someone who is emotionally dangerous. So I find it interesting that he's weighing the pros and cons of which one is safer for her. And it might be which one he is more comfortable with instead. I'm not
Well, either way, his conclusion is she's safer with him.
Yes,
Don't
which
you think?
yeah, yes, which I love. But I don't know. That makes me want to
Which I love, but I don't agree with.
I know.
have
But my
opinion.
thought was also like, what? You're bringing her to the
Yeah.
heart of danger?
You
Why?
are taking
Leave her,
this.
right?
He's
Oh
taking
no, I love
this
it.
now. So in the previous episode, we have in his internal monologue a line where he says like, maybe I should give it a couple more weeks in telling her. And I read this, I want to stay by her side a little longer tonight. Like I want to prolong this intimacy that we have, this feeling that we have, until I am obliged to tell her everything.
I
I
like
was
that.
thinking he'll use the drive back because it's a couple hours.
Yeah.
Tell her,
So-
talk to her about it, especially if given where they're going and he has to explain to her why they're leaving.
So the alarm, Pinky getting lost, and everything that interrupted them, it's like, I don't know if it's too much to say fate of destiny or whatever, somebody that rushes him to come clean with her. Somehow they have external
Clock.
an external clock. Yeah.
It's ticking
So
away.
He's torn. Like I want to stay by her side a little longer. I want to stay here in this alcove, in this house a little longer, and not forced to go back and face the reality, the truth, the life that we have, and put everything on the table, because he will have to do this at some point. And he decided, we see this further on in this episode, that he decided he would take responsibility for it. And what does this mean, to take responsibility? He assumes that one of the outcomes of telling her everything is that she may want to cut ties with him. So I want to stay a little longer.
This is the second time that he's had to think about losing her, I think, with his lifestyle. I think he's specifically concerned about his lifestyle versus hers. Regina's Peak, he kind of put that distance into play, and now I think he's forced to realize that what?
Now he can't do it anymore. He can't put distance anymore.
I was gonna say, he realized it's
either he needs it for her to do it, or the other outcome, for her to be alone with him.
He doesn't have good options because he's not leaving her with Gyu. He's leaving her with Pinky, who can't even find a house. That's like not a great option.
True. That's
and
true.
He's rolling the dice, taking her with him, because he's not going on a clan thing. What he's doing is he's going to her apartment to check on a break-in from a camera he installed. So he's going to have to kind of rolling up at her place with her. He is going to have to reveal some things.
But I would argue that we don't know where he's taking her. He might take her to his apartment for all we know.
Right.
He just wants her to come with him to the city, but maybe he's not taking her directly in the middle of, I don't know, some fight scene or some burger scene or something.
Well, speaking of
somewhere else.
speaking of Gyu and fight scene, I am slightly concerned. I secretly want.
Oh my god, me too.
I secretly want to see like Gyu having like a matching set of Quincy's cape and like him fighting off danger in his apartment, and like they'll get there and you'll be like, I told you I had this covered. Like, what the fuck are you worried about? Like, bro, chill out. Like, this is my job. I didn't answer because I was in the middle of shit, and that's what I want. But
Yeah,
I
me too.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. I love him. So sweet.
Yeah. I would be okay with Tora getting into his own head and coming clean to Poppy, and then them getting there, and then everything is just like technically fine, and they just have to worry about the theoretical issues, not the actual issues. But we'll see.
Yeah. So he tells her, he leans down, and this is, again, super important. He doesn't want her to be intimidated. He could tell she's already scared and nervous. So he leans down, puts himself at below eye level for her. It's comforting. He's close to her. And he tells her, change of plans, sweetheart. And she's like, huh? Listen, I'll drive you back tomorrow to see your granny, but you need to come back with me to Narin City. I'll tell you more about it when we get there. And she's like, what? Why not tell me now? And
Wait.
again,
I'm sorry. The body language here. Tora leaning down and talking to someone face to face in a vulnerable position when he actually needs to get an important point across. He did it with Quincy in the garage, even with Alice when he's leaning on like the bar, like he's like leaning in, talking into her. And then you see the opposite of like him holding Morris's head down with his arm and like looming over him and using that position as an intimidating position. Or like he with what's his name? Claude at the bar, he like grabs his face and he looms over him. He's close, but it's like looming over, intimidating. When it comes to the people he cares about and the things that he thinks are really important and conversations that need to actually be held, he goes to their level. He becomes vulnerable. He's open. He's honest, and he's like prostrating himself in front of the people he cares about. Essentially, it's very humbling and open. And it's amazing how he uses that versus the intimidation for people that he does not give a shit about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
I totally agree. Two quick visual things in this sequence here of where things are sped up and Ronzo's not picking up, you get his back, right? Then the camera rotates around and you have his back to her, like before, a parallel. Then rotates around and now he's seeing what's important to him, with bunny glow in the background.
So many bunnies
blocked.
Yeah.
I have a note about bunny in a second, but then look what Lily does again. Tora POV, Poppy POV. It's that back and forth, and it slows it. That's the moment your forward motion stops. That's the visual that has that effect of deceleration that you were talking about. Is that POV? Boom, boom. It's like a beat in music. Perfect.
And then, like you said, it pulls out again. Literally, you're right. And it's there's a rhythm. You're right. It's POV, pull out. And it happens. And then that fucking rabbit is in the background again when he's bleeding, like,
here's
observing.
my theory.
Okay.
It's the love bunny, the little glowing bunny of love. It represents their spark of their new love that he has just acknowledged, and the love, that love bunny is in the background glowing. It's his heart ember and her heart ember glowing. It's what has to be protected at all costs.
I'm laughing, but like I also love it. It's fucking ridiculous, and like I want to say stupid, but it's not stupid. It's like brilliant. It's
the love bunny.
The love bunny.
Yeah.
And he's like a little god looking over them, being like, "Yeah, you got this, bro. Like, be vulnerable."
It's their little tiny new relationship spark of hope, of embers, of love bunny.
It's like Harry Potter, that stupid scene where Ron's like, "The little ball of light led me to you," and I'm just like, I want to laugh because it's stupid, but also like cute.
Okay, my angsty heart now. Always keep a light on so that somebody can find you.
Yeah. The light is fucking on, people.
Oh
yes.
Okay, we have a pretty pivotal point in their conversation because she asks him, why not tell me now? And he starts responding, he says it's, and then he turns away, takes a moment, thinks,
looks at the bunny for courage.
Well, maybe I
love bunny.
Yep. And then without looking at her, he says, do you trust me? And then he turns and looks at her and says, or at least, can you trust me on this one? Because he recognized that he just asked like this massive question And then he, you know, minimizes his request a little bit because he realizes, I think, that it's a lot to ask, you know, to say, can you trust me, like unilaterally. So, and he can't look her in the face when he's asking that, because I don't know, I feel like it just came out of him, you know? I don't know how much he was thinking about that.
It's honest. It's an honest exchange between two very.
And then we have these two panels with her face and his face. And again, the issue of trust, for me, it was a reminder of the rooftop scene. The same thing. He said something like, she trusts you now, but if you give her enough reason not to, then she will run away or she will protect herself. And you can't fault her for that.
This whole exchange gets really intense now, like really intense. And it's a lot of subtext. The body language, obviously, and Poppy's immediate reaction. So I really like, I'm trying to figure, I'm not entirely sure. This is just my gut interpretation, is that her initial reaction is the polite response, which is like, you asked me, the answer is yeah, okay. That doesn't mean she doesn't trust him. It's just, I think she's always done that with Granny needed her, so she came back without questions. Jewelry would ask her to do things and she just did it because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be a good girl that says okay and makes it easy for other people and whatever they need, sure. But I don't think that means it's the same kind of response that she would be giving Jewelry or Granny or whoever, because like her body language is like, her chest towards someone is usually like open, responsive. So like her natural position is like open chest, like towards him, but then she looks away when she says, okay, I'll go back with you. And she's got her hand gripped on her leg still. So I feel like, to me, that was like my gut reaction is, yes, I should trust you. Yes, I do trust you. But then her head gets in the way of, but I've said that many times before. And how many times have those people disappointed me? How many people have I said, yeah, I trust you, and then they fucked me over because of it? So go ahead, Peg, or Saucy.
I was just gonna, that question, it's like each of them is asking other questions within that question. So he asks, do you trust me? And then he narrows it. Never mind, because it's like, never mind, why am I asking her to trust me? Who the hell would trust me? Who could trust me? So I'm going to narrow it and say, all right, can you trust me on this particular thing? In her head, the question is, do you trust me? It's do I trust anybody? You know, it's it broadens in her, within her. At least that's how it landed with me.
It's a complicated question. It's not, you know, your personality traits aren't necessarily tailored to individual people. They are at some point, but at a beginning of a relationship, you are using other relationships, other situations, other memories to color your answers for that new person. And at some point, your responses and your gut reactions become tailored to that person. But I think she's navigating new waters here.
Like in that scene where there's sort of that parallel, it's like he thinks she's evaluating him, but what she might be doing is really evaluating her capacity to trust, not whether he's trustworthy on this or that point.
Yeah,
it's so interesting. Where's Patty?
I know. I need her friggin' cheat sheet.
Well, yeah, she does talk about it later, which we'll get to soon. And I think that, you know, it's great that she is able to tell him that, you know, it's not you, it's me. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So,
and the bunny looks over the, okay, I'll go back with you. Bunny is in the foreground observing her little baby step.
That bunny means something. I need to know.
Love bunny.
Little guardian bunny.
Keep it together, Mindy. Coffee.
Yeah. No, coffee doesn't work on me. But anyway, so now, you know, he's thinking to himself, he's like, do you trust me? Like, why'd I even ask that? That question is loaded as hell. Of all people, I should know. And he's tense, like he's gripping his hand.
Yeah.
They're both gripping. It's parallel. Oh, it's beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, he's also had a lot of, you know, people that he couldn't trust in his life. So he understands that. And
yeah, so this makes me wonder, if he specifically said,
of all people I should know.
That line struck me really hard the first time I read this. I was a little scatterbrained at the time. I was like rushing through it, and I remember that line hit me like a Rick. I don't know why. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's just me projecting, but I wonder, he is very honest and very open, but he's in a position where I don't think many people that he knows are trustworthy. And I wonder if that line was used on him, especially because the young age is what gets me. The fact that he was in this from a young age, and children are very easy to trust. So I was immediately transported back to little Tora, of like this vivid image of Vincent being like, don't you trust me? Like kind of thing. And like that literally like made me nauseous. Like I can't, like I will justify a lot of things that Vincent does, but I know at some point I'm gonna have to just like be sickened, and I feel like it's coming soon. I don't know, that's just me panicking, but that line really got me.
Saucy, you'll have to write some fanfic where, you know, Emily kills him. Sorry. All making love. Just stick with Jagger.
Nah.
I love him too much, but no, it's
Let me think about that. No.
Leave this with me. I'm gonna make sure to kill him.
I really, the idea of trust in these characters, we have a lot from Poppy now from this chapter. We understand why she has trust issues. We understand why she has it from Granny. Granny manipulated her. I mean, like it's I don't blame, you know, people are doing what they need to do, and Granny obviously cares about her. There's no love there, but like Granny did manipulate her, and Poppy has a pretty good bullshit meter. Like she catches it really fucking quickly because she's learned she has to. So, and Tora obviously has that same bullshit meter, and I think
who is trustworthy? Sorry to interrupt you, but nobody is. Gu's lost in the. I mean, Gu's not picking up. What's his name's lost in the woods. Who's trustworthy? Everybody is, and not just in the comic, but in life.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily.
I'm very optimistic, and I had a good life, so I think that.
Well, give yourself another 10 years, Minty. Sorry.
Well, it's not necessarily been like malintended untrustworthiness. Some people, like, you know, Pinky is not like, ha ha, I'm going to waste their time. Like, no, like he's just like sometimes incapable. Like some people
he's
are
just getting out of the way for the love bunny is what
for the love bunny to work his magic. But like some people are just untrustworthy, not from a vindictive or a malice kind of way, but just like because they're just not reliable. So I get what you mean.
Gu is one of the most reliable, most trustworthy people, but in this particular moment, Tora's got to depend on himself.
Right. But okay, well, I guess we'll see what's happening with Gu, but I suspect he's not picking up because he's involved in something right now. Either he was incapacitated or he's trying, or he's in the middle of doing something. So.
Shut your mouth, Mindy. He's gonna be fine.
All right.
Mindy, I think you're in the middle of something. But I trust him.
Yeah. Well, it's an action. It has to have some action at some point. Someone's got to get hurt, right?
I'm very jaded today. Just ignore me.
So anyway, he tells her, go get changed. I'll pack your things. And he's like, phone, diary, junk food. What else did you bring? And he's teasing her. You know,
lightening the moment.
I think he's deflecting. Teasing her.
Right.
Because later on he says, just shut up and do your work and get to work. So
they're doing their switch thing here. This was where the switch came really into play. So we got the heavy part of Tora taking charge, him seeing Poppy was uncomfortable but willing to go along with him. At that point he didn't think he trusted her. She just said okay. That doesn't really mean like, yeah, I trust you. So he starts going into man fix it mode of like, let's just get what needs to get done, then let me pack your stuff. And he's uncomfortable, he sees she's uncomfortable, so then he goes back to his usual, which is teasing, like no dirty books.
She sensed it like she did in other instances. She sensed it and she reaches out again. Tora, I have never told anybody this.
Yeah, so because we go from whatever, just shut the hell up and get to work, and then and then this is, you're right, then it switches, and then she takes over and she sees he's uncomfortable too, and she's brave. She goes from
she did the same thing in the club, in the Fallen Angels club, when he started pulling back and was like, you're one hell of a commitment phobe and this doesn't mean shit, and okay, it's fine. When he started to pull his walls up, like, it's fine, she reaches out to him again like that. I have never told anybody this. This is me opening up to you. This is me trusting you, even though I'm I'm not really, I don't know. I don't think she knows exactly that she trusts him, but by her actions, by telling him
She shows.
intimate personal stuff, she shows it. Yes.
Yeah, because she says that I never told anyone about this because it makes me feel like a terrible person, which says more about her than it does about other people. Obviously, that statement is pretty big. But trusting people, and I mean really trusting people, like when you're not worrying that they'll hurt you or break the promises they made to you. She's saying all this, standing on the bed to pretty much be at his eye level, open, not clenched. She's letting herself be vulnerable in an empowering way. She's not being vulnerable, clutching herself together. She's being vulnerable in I'm going to meet you here. You have met me at my level. I'm going to raise myself and be who I am too, and be honest with you. And that was incredible.
When you stand, it signals you're about to say something important.
And I think she doesn't want him to feel bad. She doesn't want him to think that it's him that's the issue, because she knows that he probably thinks negatively of himself, like, oh, why would she trust me? I'm like a horrible person. But she wants him to know it's not him, it's her. And
you're right. That's when she says that's not something I'm great at. She's saying that this is on me. Like my hesitancy is not that I don't trust you. It's that I have reason not to trust people. And that's on me, she thinks. And when she says that, she's clutching her chest. She went from, let me stand up, let me say what I need to say, and then she got it off her chest, and then she got a little bit nervous again, because now it's the ball is in his court at that moment. When she says, this isn't something I'm great at, she trails off, thinks about her mom, and it's kind of in his court now.
On her face, you can see it on her face that she's concerned.
She's
what
so pretty.
He might say, and she's so vulnerable in that moment.
You know what I could see in her face?
What?
Some insanely amazing highlights and shading is in her face. And can we just take a moment? I know this is so emotional, but I want to appreciate these damn hair highlights. This season, I am dazzled every time someone's hair is in a frame, which is like a lot.
See, my brain, I'm glad you can like point out the reasons.
So extra.
Right. But my brain just shuts down. I'm just like, pretty.
Right.
I get starry-eyed and I get stupid. I'm just like, oh my God, Poppy, why are you so pretty? And Peg's like, but look at the highlights in the hair and the way that it's shaded on the shoulder. And I'm just like, I see nothing. I just see star eyes.
I mean, Lily season 1 was amazing with that shading and the highlights in the eyes, on the lips, and the face highlights, but it's just so extra this season, and I just want to appreciate that the attention to detail and going over the top in so many panels is just.
We can all appreciate a little extra.
Yeah, and the way his clothes falls off her shoulder in this kind of sensual way, even in this really vulnerable moment, it actually enhances her vulnerability.
It does. You're right. You're right. You know what she looks like? So there's a duality in a girl wearing an oversized men's shirt. There's the little kid aspect of it, of like wearing your mom's clothes or your dad's clothes and looking kind of baggy in it. And then there's the sexy version of it, of like wearing a man's button-down shirt, dinosaur pajama shirt, whatever your poison is. But you're right. It's not just sexy. It's also a little bit vulnerable and
I think it's a form of protection, of getting comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you feel when you are, I don't know, when you are snug and warm, you feel somehow protected, you feel comfortable, like in your mother's arms or in your
clothes are big this season. I think you're right. Yeah. I definitely think you're right. They were big when she was meeting Mr. Lamb. She was in like a power suit, essentially. She was pumping herself up, and here she's feeling comfortable and cozy and a little bit sexy, and she needed that to help her get through this night, which is going to be a lot of talking and a lot of opening up.
Yeah, she'll talk more about like his outfit soon also. But anyway, now finally
here it is.
Finally get to see Poppy's mom. She's talking about why she has trust issues, and first of all, my first thought was like, I know it's a serious thing, but I'm like, we can finally verify who Poppy's mom is or isn't, because it's like a silly joke that everyone is Poppy's mom, and we're like,
I'm still seeing it. Like I look on the Facebook groups and like, no, I know I'm perfectly fine with people like theorizing and tinfoiling and stuff, but like they're still like, well, she could have dyed her hair and had contacts and done it. Like it's been a few years, so like maybe she's grown a little bit. I'm like, no, she stopped growing when she was like 14. I'm pretty sure. Like you know, like it's just, I still see it, but I love that we actually get a full glimpse of this woman now.
Yeah. So we have first. She starts off small. It's a woman in a business suit. She has her suitcases all packed, and she's looking at a newspaper. And we have little Poppy saying, "Mommy, where are you going? Are you leaving because I didn't want to wear my helmet today?" Oh God!
And it's the fall too.
Yeah, Mindy, don't put those leaves falling. Remember episode 1?
Ooh.
Wait, episode 1? Oh, because
where Poppy is falling in that. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite panels. That opening scene where she falls on the scooter, and you scroll and you see her falling, and the leaves falling,
and then he's looking, and the leaves are falling, and here's the leaves falling, but it's the fall. But there's that nature, and there's that movement of nature, even in still lady reading the newspaper surrounded by her luggage.
Yeah, you're right. Movement, always movement.
And so sad, this whole scene. And then basically her mom looks back at her. Yeah, let me just read through it and then we'll discuss. So her mom looks back at her, completely cold look in her eyes. She's reading the Business Times, which, you know, gives you kind of a clue about what she does with her life. And she turns away, doesn't even respond. And Poppy's like, "I'm sorry, Mommy, please come back. I'll wear it every day, I promise." And she's crying her eyes out, wearing the helmet. You see she
looks like Alice.
Yeah, right.
Wrinkly, cute.
Girl. And she has like a band-aid on her forehead, so you see that she, you know, like she said, she really was accident prone. And somebody, presumably her dad, I'm gonna assume, is holding her back. Oh my gosh, poor girl. I can't even imagine how she feels.
Dad or Granny? So okay, I don't trust Lily anymore. When she just gives us glimpses of things, I'm always like, okay, like yes, you assume it's a dad, mom, dad, daughter relationship. Girl riding bike, dad, like she puts us in these scenarios that gives us, and like sometimes she's giving us contextual clues, but sometimes she's just being sneaky, so I don't know who that is. My first thought was dad, and now I'm like, wait, but what if it's not dad? And it's probably not important, but we'll find out. But I don't know.
So guys, what do you think made mom leave? We were speculating before that maybe she left because she couldn't handle mafia life. But at least the way it's presented here, and again, Lily could be misleading us, but the way this flashback is that it's telling us she's a very business-oriented woman and she kind of maybe left for her career.
Yeah, so, that's what I got from it. Since I have no other information, at this moment, my running theory is just like she wasn't cut out to be a mom. Maybe it just wasn't the lifestyle she wanted. Maybe she did it because that was what you were supposed to do. So I linked this back to Mrs. Lamb, who forsaked her career and her passion and her dreams to raise the family that her husband wanted her to have. That it was what you were supposed to do. You had the kids, you gave up what you wanted to do. You maybe had little hobbies on the side, but you didn't chase that dream. You were a parent, you were present, you did the mom thing. Whereas Poppy's mom has a dream, maybe had the kids, and then decided, no, I want to do what I want to do. And maybe she went the opposite way and went after herself. I don't know. But I think moms in general are fascinating in this universe because they're very realistic. They represent all the different kinds of moms that are out there. There's Alice, who's tough and who had a tough mafia oriented son who went to the police officer, and she was very present and very tough, but very loving. You have Mrs. Lamb, who is loving, but missed out on her own life. We have Poppy's mom, who has nothing to do with her daughter's life and did her own thing. Like there's a lot of moms present.
I'm having a hard time to believe that Poppy's mom did this intentionally. I mean, we can assume from these panels, but we don't know her reason. So we don't know nothing about her life, about her relationship with Poppy's dad, about any involvement in the mafia. If there was any involvement in the mafia from her mother's side or from her father's side. So I am a mom, and I find it really, really hard to empathize or even sympathize with the face that Poppy's mom has in this panel. when she looks back at Poppy. So I think she has a very, very strong reason to leave Poppy behind.
Right. If she doesn't, she's, I'm sorry to say, a piece of shit. Because I have 2 kids, and trust me, I've also gone through my fair share of, oh my God, my kids are like, it's rain. I put so much money, you know, like my life is being hindered by my kids. But anyone who leaves their kids, like, I'm just like I know that, like, you know,
who leaves them like that, because I know mothers who want their careers. I was one of them, and well, never mind, that is gone now. But I know mothers that chase their careers, but still they have a place for their kids in their heart. Like, they wouldn't leave so cold. They would, I don't know, hug her and say, okay, I'm gonna be back, or I'm gonna see you again, or I'm gonna keep in touch with you. Or, I mean, to cut ties so abruptly from your own kid means there's more there.
Right. I'm hoping that there is a better reason.
I'm hoping, yeah. Maybe it's just me being
I'm not that
biased.
optimistic. I'm the only one here who's not a mom, so I cannot speak to any kind of maternal instinct. But there's a reason I don't have kids right now, and that's because I don't have a maternal instinct at the moment. Maybe that'll change.
I know there are women that become mothers and don't have the maternal instinct, and figure out later on the way that okay, maybe it was a mistake. Very, very few recognize this, but it is an issue. But even so, I don't know. I think it's too abrupt, too cold.
What does Saucy have to say?
I just try to get in the queue so teacher will call on me. Well, I just found a big old spider crawling on my arm, and and I did not scream or fall off my chair. So maybe Tora is a little bitch. I don't care what he says.
Wow.
But this sequence here, I don't like to try to speculate stuff, because you know, Lily is such a likes to play with people's expectations and set up. This is the way it is, so you will read into it, but then it's actually not, like you said with the arm. But these panels, so what I do is I just like to investigate the visuals, and it's a couple things are interesting to me in these visuals. I mean, she's got her red power purse. The leaves connect the panel. They continue on into the panel with baby Poppy. She's got this kind of a white vignette around the mom, which could just signal memory. But then the mom has that, is like everything is set up for people to dislike mom. Business times over baby, right? Her body language, her turning away, her whole face is hidden when she turns away, except for that little sweat drop. That's the only clue that there's something else going on there. But then the other thing that hit me was the panel of Poppy, which is really hard to look at, of course. Her shirt, her jacket.
Funny.
It's the most familiar thing, right? She's still the monkeys. Here's the bunny. And so all along, you know, the visual of Poppy and her childlike clothing, you know, it's like, oh, is she just cute? She's just a little kawaii girl. You know, what's the thing? To me now, it all makes sense, because all of her clothing means it comes back to this moment, that part of her is still in this moment. You know, she hasn't, so she's still
gotten over it, and she hasn't gotten closure with her mother. And this is also,
but that symbolism of this moment is still, she's still carrying with her, and you can see it in her clothing. And up till tonight, when she put on the more mature clothing,
which to me is a symbol, you know,
clothing with the dinosaur. That is mature clothing.
But you know,
nothing sexier than seeing a girl.
The sexier one from the lake.
But Peg, I love that you said that, because I think that, you know, people go from, they have a home, right? And when they're young, their home is their parents. And then at some point they go out and they build their own home usually with their partner. So her being ready to take the next step and saying, okay, I'm done with these childish clothing, could mean that she's finally ready to find a new home and security with Tora, that he kind of will replace that like person in her life.
it's a transformation. They're both growing considerably in this arc of the story.
The love
You can
bunny is
even say
lit
it's a
and glowing.
transition. You can even say it's a transition because she moves from her sexy clothes to Tora's clothes, which
exactly, yeah.
are a different kind of comfort. They offer a different kind of comfort.
Yeah.
What
So she somehow transition her love and trust for a parent to Tora.
Okay, so 7 minutes left, guys.
Yeah.
So let's
Oh, I was gonna say we've got to. Do you want to pick this up again later, or do you want to just rush through the last part of it?
I think rush through it. I think because just so we can get it out. So anyway, so she looks at him and she says, "It sucks, doesn't it?" He says, "Sure does," because he also understands. But I'm starting to realize that with you, it's getting more natural and easier for me to do so. And he's looking away when she's saying that, and he takes a moment and then he looks up. He's like, "Me?" Because he doesn't believe that. He thinks to himself, she's starting to trust me. Like, wow. Oh, I love it. And because he doesn't believe that she could think that way about him. And she tells him, "This doesn't mean you'll take that for granted, right? Only with the stuff that matters, I mean." And he pauses, "Not with things I've got no business probing into." So he doesn't understand what she's saying. He's like, "Take it for granted. What does that mean? If she's talking about a couple things, I guess I'm screwed. Let's just say the only couple things I've ever done is fucking go." So I love that he asks for clarification, because I also wouldn't know exactly what she's talking about, because I don't think she was too clear. So he asked her, he's like, "Sorry, sweetheart, you'll have to spell that out more clearly for me. I don't really understand." Oh, his face over there.
His face is very cute and vulnerable and worried, because that's a new territory. It's really a big new territory for him. And there's a difference with him just being open and trustworthy of her and literally having her trust, because once you have it,
you can lose it.
Yeah. Yep. And she, again, it goes back to her having given trust to other people, and people like, again, we go to Granny and Jewelry and people who have kind of some might have loved her, some haven't, but have manipulated her a little bit. And she's going to be giving it to Tora again, and she doesn't want to have to second guess him.
Yeah. And she's not ready to talk about it yet, because she gets nervous. She gets like that sweat mark and the little black thing. And she's like, "It's okay, don't worry about it. I don't really get how it works either."
She flutters.
Yeah.
I think she doesn't even know what they are yet. So are they a couple? Do they have a relationship, or are they just friends? She's still insecure about what kind of relationship they have. And when he asks for clarification, she herself doesn't know exactly.
I think she also still might have some insecurity about the situation, because like she's asking him to basically let her trust him and don't abuse this, and then it gets a little heavy, and that's hard for her to ask because she had Jewelry who gaslighted her constantly. So when Tora asked about it, I think she kind of gets a little bit nervous about, like, sometimes you wonder, like, do I have the right to ask this of this person? Do I have a right to put myself out there and put my baggage on you? And I think she's now worrying that she's going to bring too much of her baggage and put it on Tora. And she backtracks a little bit, and she goes like, "Don't worry about it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's just me getting my own head.
We'll figure it out somehow."
What?
We'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah. To me though, I do see it as her insecurity popping back up real quick, which Tora doesn't. I mean, I need, just because it makes a point and we get to it later, but he says, like, we're going to talk about this still, like, at some point, which is an insanely affirming, healthy thing for him to tell her, because he saw that she was panicking. Yeah. They have a cute little moment, and then he goes back and says, like, "I heard you. We don't have time to do this right now. We will get back to it, because if it's important to you, it's important to me." And that's just mind blowing, but we should keep going.
Awesome. Yeah. And she's like, "Anyway, can I go in your sweater? I'm feeling a little anxious, and it has your stinky poop." And I mean, it's snug and warm, but it's adorable, like, she's telling him, if he manages to get past the stinky part, that his sweater makes her feel calm. Yeah. Awesome. Also, not stinky. Poppy is not using the right word.
That was.
I think she wanted to say something like, "It has your stinky smoking smoke smell," or something like that.
Yeah, it's very honest. Because when I think stinky, I think bad. I don't think she means bad. I think she means comforting. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is literally stinky, and she likes it. I don't know. But Yeah.
I love his face. His face is like kind of like that eyebrow raise, and he thinks it's cute. He goes like squish, and I know many people probably thought of a different kind of things being squished, but it was her cheeks. And he's like, only if you put on your pants.
That face. That
But the bra's optional. Oh my god. Oh, that little cheeky smirk is back again. The dimples. Oh,
yeah.
He's cheeky.
I love it.
And this is another instance of their little switching. They this entire section was them back and forth supporting the other person as they notice them getting uncomfortable with the conversation. It's very supportive, and their silly little way with the squishing and they're on each other's level. They've come to the point where they're both with each other, both squishing each other, both very close and up in each other's faces and just comfy with them.
His face in this panel with the dimple is, his profile is very, very similar to the one in Alice's restaurant when they went to dinner, and when he said to her, sleep with me, when he was just teasing her. But now he just looks her in the eye, and he has also this cowlick all over the place, and he doesn't mind at all this time. So this is nice. a evolution in their interactions, actually.
Oh, that is so good.
Saucy was going to say something.
Oh,
also,
I saw you.
she goes and squishes his face back. So we go from the scene in his apartment when he pinches her cheek and she pushes his hand away and don't do that. In Alice's restaurant, it was the same. He pinches her cheek and she was swatting him off. Let me be. And now she just reaches out and does the same thing. So again, it's a step forward for both of them.
Mindy, you have to go. We still have like Quincy and stuff to talk about. Do you want to just come back later tonight?
Hold on. Okay, so at this point, we have the most adorable panel, like literally in Midnight Poppyland history, probably, where they are both squishing each other's cheeks. And, Poppy's giving as good as she gets. And she's like, I'll put my pants and bra on, you perv. Safety pants don't count. You laid my safety pants out of this. Oh my gosh, I love them.
Is she wearing the safety pants now? Or is it just like theoretical, like you can't put your safety pants on and then expect them to be pants?
I'm going theoretical.
This makes you wonder, when did Tora notice that she had safety pants on?
Ooh, good question.
Because she had, in his apartment, she had skirts, like a skirt / pants kind of thing. And in his apartment, he had let's say, a major turn-on.
Well, so on the motorcycle, like, or the scooter, when she pulled up.
On the scooter, she had a little blue pants, yeah, but
you noticed. I mean, we all noticed because we're obsessed. So I guess he's
again, again, he had the same issue.
He's just being an observant motorcycle driver, making sure that everyone is decent while riding the scooter.
Yeah.
For safety.
Or maybe she had them on right now under his shirt.
She might have them on now. I like to believe that she's just wearing panties because she had those cute little frog ones on in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she did.
So I hope she has another cute pair on right now.
I think we can infer she doesn't because she says, I'll put on my pants. And he's like, oh, safety pants don't count. So I think she doesn't have anything on now.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
Also, sexier for this whole scene.
Asking the real questions here.
And, and then we just see them panned out and she's, oh, sorry. No, Tora says, I was confused for a sec. Tora says, and no, if it's not bugging you, it's not fine. I want to know more, but we'll talk about this later, promise, which is what you were talking about, Emily, how he takes her feeling seriously and wants to make sure that they address anything that has to be addressed and they're not just, going to push it off forever.
Yeah, he listens. He notices that she's uncomfortable. And he addresses it. Like, it's not, he doesn't just brush it off. He's been paying attention. He pays attention to her. Like, men in general need to read this comic and like see what a good example of this is, because he sees she's deflecting, probably because he deflects a lot and he might recognize that behavior, and he mans up and is like, nope, like we'll talk about it when
but
when we
also
can.
this is not just about her in this aspect. It's about him as well, because he wants to know more about what a real relationship is.
True.
So they don't have time to talk about it now, but he wants to find out exactly what is different than whatever couple thing he did before, which wasn't actually a couple thing. Well,
Right.
True.
Oh, I love it. And I love their position on the bed. You know, now she's taller than him because she's standing on it and he's there. And it's just adorable. Like she's only a little bit taller than him standing on a whole bed.
I can relate to that. I do that to my husband all the time, and he laughs because me staying on a bed is basically I'm like just a little taller than him when I do that, and he's funny.
What's the height difference between you guys? Like what?
I'm 5, he's 6'1", 6'2".
Oh,
I'm
wow.
5 even, like 5.25 sometimes, but like it depends on who's measuring me, what doctor's office I'm in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little off, but more like 5.
Wow. Yeah, that's the difference.
So yeah.
Cool. And then Poppy asks him, Tora, are you in some kind of trouble? And Tora at this point has a flashback to his conversation with our darling dog, Quincy. And he asked him, but is this really what you want to put her through? And we have Tora's gaze, you know, he's kind of lost in reverie. And Quincy says, Tora, bro, I know this is rich coming from me and my rose tinted glasses. And I have to say, as an eternal optimist, my friends and I were actually discussing optimism. And they're like, you're optimistic and you're not realistic. I was like, what? I never thought of optimism as having that negative quality, but I thought about it and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like people who are optimistic, I can sometimes lose out on negative possibilities because I just don't think about them. And it doesn't occur to me. And I loved seeing Quincy admit the downfall of optimism and being so self-aware.
Then there's toxic positivity. There is such a thing as seeing everything as happy all the time and not addressing issues. So which I'm sure Quincy's probably been known to do in the past. I mean, when you don't want to address something that is hurtful or traumatic, you just kind of go into a little happy place, and that's it's a coping mechanism. I'm sure he's had plenty of things that he would want to get away from. I mean, he's a romance writer, the son of 2 mafia people. Like he did not go the family business way. He did his own passion, which is also good, but it might also be a way for him to hide in fiction for a little bit. It's not an impossibility.
Yeah, and so he's surprisingly able to be practical, and he tells him, but I'm obliged to remind you as a brother and as your boss's son, even if she doesn't decide to cut ties with you, well, we've seen what happens. She'll be a walking target for all your enemies, and that's just within our clan. You do have a bit of a reputation, and it'll take more than a couple of years of lying low to erase all that.
Hey, okay. I had a question about that line, and I wanted to know what everyone else thought. When you said when Quincy said it'll take more than a couple of years lying low to erase all that, how did you interpret that? I don't want to give away because there's 2 schools of thought that I've seen people talk about, and I don't want to give it away. I'm curious what your genuine, how you read that.
Well, he is known for being Tora is known for being the tiger of Ares Street, right? So, being everybody talks about him like he's some kind of monster, of a person with brutality, and he knows only violence and stuff like that. So I read it that to get rid of this reputation, to get rid of your enemies that you might have done during the years when you were the tiger of Ares Street, you should lay low until somebody else takes the scene and you're not seen as a threat as you are now.
You saw it as a future,
yeah,
you'd have to lay low for a few years.
You have to lay low so that you can be that people don't look at you anymore, don't remember your reputation anymore.
Yeah, I saw it that way too, where like, you know, he's saying, okay, Tora, I understand if you want to be with Poppy, you're gonna take a step back and like leave the mafia world, even though how is not been discussed. But yeah, I did see it as a future thing. But I now I'm guessing, you know, the alternative way that you're thinking about it.
What did you think, Peg?
Well, the other way to look at it is that he's been laying low, or he's been less associated, other than when Vince or XYZ, that he's been on vacation.
Yeah, so I read it as the way that Mindy and Raluca did, but then I saw some of our friends saying that that it could have been that Quincy was like, these 2 years you've been lying low are not enough to make you. So like I read it as that if you decided now to lay low for a few years, you still wouldn't have that time. But I'm not sure which way it was actually meant, because we did reference Tor being on vacation. So like we don't know how long that's been. Like, is he referring to that for the last 2 years?
And what does vacation exactly mean? Because he is doing jobs for Vincent as a shadow division or whatever he's doing, sniper jobs for Vincent.
Yeah.
So this laying low, I think it's just the surface, just the way people are remembering him, just the way people are seeing him, but not knowing what he really does behind the scenes, behind the facade of Tiger. Also, I want to take this opportunity to point out that Quincy is a bit hypocritical in this sense. Like, come on, you come to me now after you pushed Poppy onto me. You pushed us to be on a blind date. You signed an agreement blindly, just to make us Quincy signed that contract without even reading it, just to quiet Tora and Poppy and to make them get along. And it's not. Some people are saying that maybe he thought that Poppy is one-time thing for Tora, like hit and go. But he says on one of the previous episodes something like, "I'm gonna get you the love that you deserve," or something like that, referring to Tora. So knowing Tora for so many years, knowing he has trust issues, and I'm sure Quincy knows these things because he almost lives with the man, and still, I don't know.
I get Quincy.
I just think it's rich coming from him when he went out of his way to do the joint birthday party and all the little things, pushing Poppy to go to Tora to visit him when he was sick. And now he's telling him, well, she might cut ties with you. Are you sure you want to involve her in all of that? When she actually said to Quincy that she wants to make an informed decision when they were discussing outside the giant goldfish offices. When she found out that Quincy is bugged one, she said, "Okay, I'm not gonna pass judgment, but I want to make an informed decision, and I want to inform Erdine and I want to inform Jacob about what are they getting into." So now it's just, okay, are you sure you want to tell her?
In Quincy's defense, contracts are super boring and they're not that hard to get out of.
Yeah, so. True. Okay, leave the contract aside, but the rest, he has no excuse.
I totally hear you, but I think it is totally within Quincy's character because, like you were talking about, toxic positivity, Emily. I think that Quincy has that. He has this element that just wants to ignore reality and, you know, push forward and be like, "Oh, this will be amazing. It'll be amazing. It'll be wonderful." And then, but now at the end of the day, he's like, "Oh shoot!" Now it's, you know, stuff's hitting the, you know, the steps are hitting the concrete or whatever the phrase is. He's like, "Okay, I should tell him, you know what, I should warn him." But I think it fits him to the T. Yeah. And, you know, it's a flaw maybe, but I think it's a lovable flaw.
Yeah, I would say
it's a flaw, but the flaws makes them relatable, makes the character relatable. So this is what makes us relate to them, like readers. So it's believable.
I'm 100% guilty of that. And I'm 100% guilty of being like, no thoughts, don't think of consequences. Yeah, this is a great idea. And then later being like, fuck, like I did not think at all about this. I just saw all the pretty things that was going to happen. And so.
Again, in Quincy's defense, he writes romance and erotica. Of course, he's like, there will be a happy ending. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't think that's toxic. But what does he mean? I'll take responsibility for everything. I don't understand.
That's Tora's thing.
I think
that's Tora.
That's Tora.
But he's quoting Quincy.
There's no.
Oh no, yeah, there's no quotes.
Tora is saying I'll take responsibility.
Yeah, the speech bubble is just kind of wonky, but it's Tora. I don't know if it's Tora thinking to himself or saying it out loud, but it's not Quincy.
I think it's Tora saying it to Quincy.
Yeah,
like verbally saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it matches the other speech bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Which is ominous and very nerve-wracking because like.
And that's him being very positive, by the way. Like he thinks that
that's Tora being positive.
Protect her from everything, that from all the people that will want to kill her now.
I love that you just referred to that as positive because like I thought it was dark, but like it is. You're right. You're not wrong. Like it's a very optimistic view of like I'm not going to worry about it. I like this. This relationship is worth figuring out. But like I saw it as like dun dun dun. But I like your dark.
It's not optimistic. It's not optimistic, but it's not pessimistic either. It's realistic.
Ooh.
So this is how I see it. Tora says, I'll take responsibility for everything, meaning one, I'll take responsibility for trusting her with my secrets because she will not say anything to anybody. I'll take responsibility that the outcome might be she will cut ties with me. And I'll take responsibility that if she doesn't want to cut ties with me, then I have to protect her.
I'm sticking with dark positivity, but realistic actually is quite a good word for it.
I see it a little bit differently. I mean, I'm always identifying with Tora, It's just me. But I see it as that damn thing, like, I already am carrying the world around and I'll take this on too.
Yeah,
I can do it. And you know, you can do it, but you're fucking sleeping on the floor, okay? You're not really, you're not in the best place.
It's like I can handle Vincent, I can distract the clan, I can
deal with the
manage the other clan members. I can hide this if necessary. I can protect her if necessary. I manage this. I've got this, something like that.
And he has his stuff together, but at the same time, he's not in control of everything and everyone. And he walks out of that boardroom scene early on and he's trembling. So it's because it has an impact. So it's, to me, I'm like, oh, Tora, okay.
He looks like a god, but doesn't mean he is one.
I feel you.
By the way,
I will do that for you by Tuesday. No, actually, I'm not going to happen.
Don't you think that if he shares his life or his secrets with her, it would be easier for him?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so
this is like, let's say, like a fuel for like motivation for handling everything else, because there is this outcome that she might accept him. She proved several times that she is able to accept part of him, whatever it is. So
you're speaking rationally, and I don't think that they're necessarily completely rational when they're very emotional. Emotions keep the rationality at bay. Yes, they have definitely shown each other that they can be open, but this is nerve-wracking. Like when my husband proposed to me, like he knew I was going to say yes, and yet he was freaking the hell out all day. I don't know why.
Yeah, but you see,
I was a guaranteed yes.
After his discussion to Quincy, he says to himself, maybe I should give it a few more weeks. So he thinks about it. He thinks about his conversation. He thinks about what Quincy offered, what Quincy said to him. So maybe I'm thinking with my dick again. Yes.
But the whole frame he's operating in just shifted about 20 minutes ago in this evening. And he has to figure out she needs to spill her secrets to him before he can strategize and plan to go forward, because she was just like, oh, by the way, I'm in the mafia too. I mean, holy crap, that's like huge. That
I don't think
everything.
he took that seriously.
Yeah.
I don't think he took that seriously. When she said, I'm in the mafia too.
I mean,
his first
she
reaction
said it
was
seriously.
surprise,
She shouldn't have
and
twisted
then
that.
was quit joking.
Yeah.
So his reaction, I think he might think that she's in the mafia as in she has ties with the mafia, like with him and Quincy. Or
but you'd think he'd kind of want that. It's a weird joke to come out of nowhere while you're sitting on the end of a pier facing away from somebody. So, you know, you'd think he'd want to explore that, because it would change a lot, especially in the world of enemies and friends within clans and between clans. That's kind of a biggie.
Yep.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that he's just like, to him, Poppy symbolizes a life outside the mafia so much that he can't see it. Like he must be blind spotted, because she's, to him, represents the total opposite of his current life.
yeah, that could be the first time when Tora doesn't see Poppy for who she is.
Right, where his emotional astuteness, his radar is a little off.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Cool for him.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt because he was just attacked by a spider. So. That's serious shit, man.
Well, Saucy managed it a little while ago. I think Tora can just man up and get over it.
So if you want to hear like a really
But
dark
that question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that question that kicked off that whole memory. Are you in trouble? But anyways, go ahead. What were you going to say, Mindy?
Yeah, so if you want to hear like a really dark interpretation of I'll take responsibility for everything, to me it included even the possibility of Poppy's death.
Yeah, that's what I felt too.
Which is like,
I did not go that dark. So what?
Well, I thought it would be the failure to protect her. He would have to be responsible if he failed.
Heavy.
Yeah, that's a tough decisions they have to make.
I don't think he takes into consideration.
Do you think he thinks he's so capable that it won't ever happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people are busting into her apartment.
Okay.
Well, he's already failed to protect her there.
Well, he's willing now to take the risk of bringing her along with him. So normally you would think, okay, she's safer there. I leave her here, or I'll take her somewhere else. But this, in my book, this doesn't make sense. This isn't Tora in protector mode. This is Tora in emotional mode.
I hear. Just wants to be with her.
Idea. I can't
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe he thinks that it's such a big hot shot that he might be able to protect her from anything.
He definitely thinks he's more capable than Pinky, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say
Well, he is more capable than Pinky. Everybody is more capable than Pinky.
I mean, everyone might disagree. We don't know what happened that night. She might think he's perfectly capable.
I'd much rather leave her with Erdine than Pinky.
Yes, I would agree with that too.
Poor Pinky. We're all dissing on him. Anyway, so that flashback is over and he's staring intently at Poppy. And Poppy is looking back at him with this worried expression. And he tells her, he looks away and he's like, trouble? Yeah, pretty sure I am. And then we have his thoughts, because I think I'm falling in love with you.
Can't. I'm dead. I lost it.
He said it. I love it. We love it. Oh my gosh.
Okay,
The words came in his head.
but I don't want to. Okay, so that made me lose my shit. But look at his eyes when he says that. I feel like he's kind of mad at the fact that that is happening, or scared, or I don't know what. But like this isn't like gushy for him. This is not like, oh my goodness, yay, I'm falling in love. Like maybe he wants to explore it, sure. But that's not the look of someone who's like got no worries. Like it's dark in that brain right there. Like that is not the puppies are not running around licking each other in that brain. Like it's just not happening.
No, this is serious business. I don't know if he's scared or he's just shocked.
Or just really, really horny. I don't know. Like it could be.
I think that he realizes, especially given this whole conversation, that it's a dangerous business to be in love with someone, and he can't help himself. But he thinks it is trouble. He calls it trouble, and he doesn't want to be, maybe, but he is, and he knows that this can be dangerous for both of them. But he is.
Making connections with people is risky business.
That's on an emotional perspective. Yeah.
He's staring at the love bunny in so many panels in this episode.
He really is.
It was clear to him.
In this moment, he needs the love bunny to back him up because he's a little lost.
The love bunny is still aglow.
Boy.
Funny. Well,
I mean, that's a worthy cliffhanger. Like that is a cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. Like that feels like a season, like a season break,
right?
Cliffhanger. Like I'm glad it's not. I don't think it is. She hasn't said anything, but that feels like I'm gonna let you stew for a few months and be miserable kind of cliffhanger because it's so good.
Yeah. Oh.
Look at her face in the last panel. She's so cute, so concerned for him, so worried.
Because he literally just admitted that he's in trouble. Like he was like, "Yeah, actually, I'm kind of screwed right now," and she doesn't have his internal thoughts. So imagine where her brain went. Her brain didn't go to, "Oh no, he's in love with me." Her brain went to, "Oh my god, like what is actually wrong? Like, is he okay? How do we fix this?" Like, they're in very different mindsets right here.
But if you were to guess, who else would have looked at him like that?
Quincy. But yeah, a couple people.
Quincy.
This is those two POV shots, right? Poppy's POV at Tora, Tora's POV back to Poppy. Okay, remember the first kiss on the rooftop? Yeah. Remember the two panels in, the big long panel, the two panels out, that rhythm, and then the coloring. Remember all the colors behind there? The pinks, the yellow and yes. Look at the colors in the background here on both of them, but that dark, somber, serious, like because a lot of times, just like I'm always using that curacao with me, but just like in good visual storytelling, what's happening behind the character illuminates their inner landscape, their inner feelings. So like compare the kiss moment to this moment.
And that's true of the Airy Street kiss too. It's very intense, very exciting, very dangerous, but like vibrant danger, not like doom danger. This is doom. Like this doesn't look like a very happy background.
Yeah, it's very somber, very dark, shadows.
That's kind of ending of prolonging the inevitable. You cannot prolong the inevitable anymore. The inevitable has happened.
That's a great place to end the episode. We're glad we finally arrived at this moment.
Yes.
Yeah, but if I were to guess, they would have to face some serious stuff from now on. I don't know. I feel that this trust they have started to build is going to be put to the test.
Well, I mean, I think that they're going to discuss, like in the car ride there, I think that's when he's going to tell her, I would hope, like what's going on and who he is, like everything he told Quincy and wanted to tell her, especially because, they're heading somewhere. He has to explain to her where they're heading.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would assume he would talk about.
It's a good transition into the next episode that leaves us wondering where they're both going to end up. It's very serious, somber, and speculative. We're gonna have to wait and see.
Poppy should ask him what kind of trouble, and I'm really curious to see what his answer would be. I'm betting he's gonna deflect again, but
his hair is magnificent.
I'm jealous of his hair.
That's awesome. Well, if you guys feel that we have said what there is to say on this episode, I'd love to do a bonus question if you want to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm still reading from this episode. I don't think we even said half of it, but my mind is scattered. So maybe after a week or so, after I'm gonna reread it several times again, then I'm gonna come
The
up with
last chance
thoughts.
for thoughts now.
Yeah.
Okay.